The distress call. The message burst through subspace like a desperate gasp for air. It rippled across the vast emptiness between stars, carrying with it the pleas of billions. In the grand chamber of the Galactic conclave, thousands of light years away, a priority alert chimed with an urgency not heard in centuries. First speaker Jaliv, her translucent blue skin pulsing with stress patterns, rose from her meditation pool as the holographic display materialized before the assembled representatives of 200 sapient species. Receiving emergency transmission from the Iloran Confederation, announced the conclave's AI. Classification, extinction level event. The chamber, normally filled with the polite murmurs of diplomatic discourse, fell completely silent. The hologram stabilized, revealing a tall, willowy figure whose normally luminescent skin had dulled to a sickly gray. Behind the alien, smoke and destruction were visible. "This is High Chancellor Theron of the Iloran people," the figure began, voice trembling. "The outer colonies have fallen. The defense fleet has been obliterated. They call themselves the Void. Combine, and they consume everything in their path." An explosion rocked the transmission. "Our scientists estimate our central worlds have less than 14 solar cycles before total annihilation. We beg the conclave, anyone, for assistance." The Muam. Transmission cut to static as pandemonium erupted in the chamber. Jaliv raised all four of her limbs, calling for order. "Security Council, report. What forces can we deploy to Iloran space?" Admiral Kraz, a heavily plated reptilian with ceremonial battle scars etched into his carapace, stepped forward. His expression carried the grim certainty of a military mind. "Calculating impossible odds. First speaker, our nearest battle group is 7 sectors away. At maximum FTL, they would arrive in 23 cycles. Too late. Then we must organize an evacuation fleet," offered Ambassador Neelan of the Volus Directorate. "The Void Combine leaves no survivors," countered Science Minister Tell. "According to initial scans from our long-range observatories, they're systematically harvesting all resources, including biological material." First speaker. Jaliv's skin rippled with decision patterns. "Are there no other options? No closer civilizations with military capability?" A heavy silence fell over the chamber until Ambassador Lorax, one of the oldest members of the conclave and rarely one to speak, cleared his throat. The ancient Peloran's eyes gleamed with knowledge that predated the conclave itself. "There is one option, though many will consider it problematic." All eyes turned to the ancient being. The humans. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, protests, and alarmed color changes rippled through the assembly. "Impossible," shouted Ambassador Vril of the Tausen Imperium. "Their world has been quarantined for a reason. They're barely beyond primitive." Another voice called out. Lorax waited for the protests to subside. "Sector 2814, which contains the Sol system, borders Iloran space. Their fleet could reach the Iloran homeworld in less than 5 cycles." Admiral Kraz's expression darkened. "Ambassador Lorax speaks truly about their proximity, but he neglects to mention why Sol remains under quarantine. Humans evolved on what our exobiologists classify as a Class 12 Deathworld, the most extreme inhabited planet we've discovered." The holographic display shifted to show Earth, a blue-green world wrapped in swirling white clouds that appeared deceptively peaceful. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, tectonic instability, aggressive biodiversity, and constant warfare have produced a species with concerning attributes, Kraz continued. Their endurance, aggression, and pain tolerance exceed all conclave standards. They can survive injuries that would kill most sapients, and their technological development has focused primarily on warfare rather than harmony, which is precisely why they might be the Iloran's only hope, Lorax countered. The quarantine was established to protect the conclave from potential human aggression. But what if we channeled that aggression toward a common enemy? First speaker Jaliv's skin pulsed thoughtfully. "Admiral Kraz, how does human military technology compare to our estimates of the Void Combine?" Kraz hesitated. "Crude, but surprisingly effective. Their ships lack elegance, but possess redundant systems and overwhelming firepower. Their ground forces are especially formidable. Humans evolved as pursuit predators and still retain many of those instincts. And the legal position? Jaliv inquired. The Conclave's legal advisor, a small multi-limbed being, consulted a data terminal. The quarantine treaty does include an emergency provision. Article 47.3 allows for contact in cases of existential threat to Conclave members. For several long moments Jaliv considered. Her skin cycled through patterns of doubt, analysis, and finally, resolve. Prepare a diplomatic vessel immediately. Ambassador Lorax, given your expertise on primitive species, you will lead the mission to Earth. Admiral Kraz will accompany you to evaluate their military capability. Kraz's scales flared in protest. First speaker, I must formally register. My objection? Noted, Admiral. But the Ilorans have hours, not days. We need options, not objections. Captain Diana Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Artemis, staring out at the blackness of space. Humanity had clawed its way into orbit, then to their moon, then Mars, but the stars beyond remained tantalizing and unreachable. 20 years in Earth's United Defense Force had taught her patience, but the hunger to see what lay beyond their solar system never diminished. Her comm unit chimed. Captain Reyes, report to command immediately. Priority Alpha. Frowning, Reyes abandoned her view and headed toward the station's central hub. Priority Alpha meant either a drill or something unprecedented. Given the edge in the comms officer's voice, she suspected the latter. The command center buzzed with controlled chaos when she arrived. Admiral Chen stood at the center, surrounded by Earth's highest-ranking military officials, many of whom should have been planetside. Captain Reyes reporting as ordered, sir. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. 17 minutes ago, our deep space monitoring array detected an unknown vessel approaching from beyond the Kuiper Belt. It's not following any known trajectory and is moving at speeds our physics department is still trying to calculate. Reyes felt her pulse quicken. First contact? That's the working theory. The vessel has decelerated and is maintaining position just beyond Mars' orbit. It's broadcasting on all frequencies using variations of mathematical sequences. Classic attempt at basic communication. Response protocols. That's why you're here. The Security Council has approved First Contact Protocol Theta. You're our finest tactical mind, Captain. If this goes sideways, you'll be commanding our response. Before Reyes could respond, a lieutenant called out from the monitoring station. Admiral, the vessel is transmitting again, but something's different. It's English, sir. The main display activated, showing the alien vessel. Sleek, organic-looking, with no visible propulsion system. Then the image shifted to show the interior of the craft and two distinctly non-human figures. One appeared vaguely insectoid with translucent blue skin that seemed to pulse with light. The other was reptilian, heavily armored with penetrating eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. People of Earth, the blue being spoke, its English heavily accented but understandable. I am Ambassador Lorax of the Galactic Conclave. Beside me stands Admiral Kraz. We come with urgent news and a request that cannot wait. The command center fell completely silent. For centuries, your world has been under quarantine, not out of malice, but caution. The conditions of your homeworld produced evolutionary paths unlike any other known species. Today, however, these very traits may be the salvation of billions. Admiral Chen stepped forward. This is Admiral Chen of Earth's United Defense Force. We are receiving your transmission. What exactly are you asking of us? The reptilian being, Admiral Kraz, moved forward. We require your military assistance. A peaceful civilization is being systematically destroyed by an enemy our forces cannot reach in time. Your fleet could intervene before total extinction occurs. Reyes couldn't help herself. So you've isolated us for centuries, and now you want our help? Ambassador Lorax nodded solemnly. Yes, Captain Reyes. That is precisely what we are asking. The room froze. No one had introduced her. We have been monitoring your development, Lorax explained. The quarantine was never absolute. We know your capabilities, your history, and your remarkable tenacity. In return for your assistance, the Conclave offers full diplomatic recognition and the end of quarantine status. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral. We'll need more information before committing forces. Of course. The blue alien gestured and a holographic display appeared in the command center. Detailed information about the Aloran civilization, the Void Combine threat, and tactical analyses. As Captain Reyes reviewed the data, a cold certainty settled in her stomach. The Alorans were peaceful artisans and philosophers with minimal defenses. The Void Combine were sophisticated predators who stripped planets bare. It was like watching wolves descend on sheep. They don't stand a chance, she murmured. No, Admiral. Kraz agreed, his voice rumbling. They do not. Not without intervention. Admiral Chen turned to his assembled officers. I need recommendations in 5 minutes before I contact the Security Council. The room erupted in controlled discussion. Reyes studied the tactical display, focusing on the Void Combine fleet configurations. Something in their patterns seemed familiar, predictable even. They expect no resistance, she realized aloud. Their formations are optimized for harvesting, not combat. Admiral Kraz's eyes narrowed. You see this from just a tactical overview? I see overconfidence, Reyes replied. And overconfidence creates vulnerability. For the first time, something like respect flickered in the alien admiral's eyes. When the Security Council convened an hour later, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would answer the call, not just out of compassion or diplomatic opportunity, but because something fundamental in human nature couldn't ignore a cry for help. Preparation orders went out across Earth's unified defense network. Dormant warships awakened, ground forces mobilized, and strategic reserves were activated. The quarantine that had kept humanity bound to their solar system was about to be broken, not by conquest, but by coming to the aid of strangers. As Captain, Reyes supervised the loading of the UES Intrepid, Earth's newest and most formidable battlecruiser. She caught Ambassador Lorax observing her with an unreadable expression. Something troubling you, Ambassador? Not troubling, Captain. Fascinating. Your people prepared for war with remarkable efficiency. One might think you've been expecting this day. Reyes smiled thinly. Humanity has always looked to the stars with both hope and caution, Ambassador. We built our ships not knowing if we'd ever be allowed to use them beyond our system. And now, you will, Lorax said. I wonder if the galaxy is prepared for what that means. Admiral Kraz joined them, his posture rigid. The Void Combine doesn't know what awaits them either. Tell me truthfully, Captain Reyes, can your forces defeat an enemy that has consumed 17 worlds before Elora? Reyes turned her gaze to the massive hangar where soldiers loaded combat dropships. Engineers performed final checks on aerospace fighters, and medical teams prepared for casualties. Humanity's warriors, preparing to fight for an alien species they'd never met. Admiral Kraz, humans have a saying, the most dangerous animal is a cornered one. The Alorans are cornered. We are not. The Void Combine has never faced Deathworlders before. They've only harvested the defenseless. That's not a fight. It's a slaughter. Her eyes hardened. We're about to show them the difference. Battle among the stars. The UES Intrepid led Earth's battle fleet through the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace. Captain Diana Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as 15 warships maintained perfect formation behind her flagship. Each vessel bristled with weapons that had never been fired outside of Sol's gravity well, until now. 5 minutes to hyperspace exit, Captain, announced Lieutenant Kincaid, her navigation officer. All systems nominal across the fleet. Reyes nodded, her face a careful mask that concealed the storm of emotions beneath. Excitement, apprehension, determination, all collided within her. Humanity's first interstellar combat mission. First contact with a hostile alien species, and billions of lives hanging in the balance. Status report on ground forces, she ordered. Colonel, Marcus Santiago's face appeared on a secondary display. Behind him, rows of power-armored Marines checked weapons and equipment. Strike teams Alpha through Echo ready for orbital insertion. Mechanized divisions prepped in dropships. Medical units standing by. His normally stern expression softened momentarily. The men and women are ready, Captain. They know what's at stake. Very good, Colonel. Reyes turned to where Ambassador Lorax and Admiral Kraz observed the proceedings. I trust our approach. Meets with your approval, Admiral? The reptilian officer had spent the 3-day journey studying human military doctrine with increasing fascination. Unorthodox by conclave standards, but impressive in its thoroughness. I've transmitted updated intelligence on Eleron topography to Colonel Santiago. Hyperspace transition in 60 seconds, Kincaid announced. Reyes keyed the fleet-wide comm. All vessels, battle stations. Weapons hot on exit. Remember your training and remember why we're here. Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded as crew members raced to their positions. In the massive hangars, pilots climbed into aerospace fighters. In armories, final weapons checks were completed. In medical bays, doctors and medics prepared for casualties. Transition in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted as the fleet erupted from hyperspace at the edge of the Aloran system. The main view screen immediately displayed the tactical situation, and Reyes felt her blood run cold. The Aloran homeworld, once a vibrant blue-green sphere according to Conclave records, now bore ugly black scars across its surface. In orbit, the distinctive spike-covered vessels of the Void Combine surrounded the planet like parasites, methodically stripping resources and bombarding population centers. 37 enemy vessels detected, reported Commander Okafor, tactical officer. 3 capital ships, 14 cruiser class, remainder are support vessels. Life signs on the planet? Reyes asked, dreading the answer. Still reading approximately 4 billion signatures, but they're decreasing rapidly. Void Combined ground forces are concentrated around the major cities. Ambassador Lorax's skin pulsed with distress patterns. We may already be too late for the outer settlements. But not for the majority, Reyes countered. Battle Plan Theta. All vessels execute. With practiced precision, the human fleet split into 3 distinct groups. 5 destroyers accelerated toward the planet's poles, where Void Combine forces were thinnest. 7 frigates and corvettes formed a defensive screen around the Intrepid, and 2 other battle cruisers as they drove straight toward the heart of the enemy formation. For several critical moments, the Void Combine vessels didn't react, clearly unprepared for the arrival of an unknown fleet. They're scrambling to respond. Okafor reported, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Their formation is breaking up. Admiral Kraz leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Their command ship, the largest vessel near the equator, is transmitting orders. If you can disrupt their communication. Already on it, Reyes replied. Electronic warfare suite, target their command frequencies. Tactical, prepare main batteries. Target their flagship's communication array. The Intrepid's massive rail cannons swiveled into position, targeting systems locking onto the distant enemy vessel. Fire. Hypersonic tungsten projectiles erupted from the human vessels, crossing the void at a significant fraction of light speed. The Void Combine's defensive systems, calibrated for energy weapons, failed to intercept the solid projectiles before they slammed into the command ship's communication spires. Direct hit, Okafor announced. Their system-wide comms are fragmenting. On the tactical display, the Void Combine fleet's organized response dissolved into individual ship reactions, some moving to intercept the human vessels, others maintaining their harvesting positions, and some simply holding position, awaiting orders that would never come. The Polar Strike Group has broken through, reported Kincaid. They're deploying ground forces at the designated coordinates. Across the system, the 5 human destroyers had punched through the weakened defenses at the poles, positioning themselves in low orbit. From their hangars, dozens of dropships descended toward the surface, carrying the first wave of Earth's soldiers into battle. Ambassador Lorax watched with wide eyes. Your forces move with remarkable coordination. That's not coordination yet, Reyes replied grimly. That's just the opening gambit. As if responding to her words, the main Void Combine fleet finally organized a counterattack. 20 vessels broke orbit, weapons charging as they moved to intercept the human battle group. Incoming energy signatures, Okafor warned. Multiple, beam weapons charging. Defensive pattern Sigma, Reyes ordered calmly. Deploy countermeasures. The human vessels executed a complex series of maneuvers, each ship covering the other's vulnerable points while simultaneously launching clouds of reflective chaff and electromagnetic disruptors. When the Void Combine fired their main weapons, searing beams of purple energy, the majority found only empty space or were diffused by the countermeasures. Those that did connect discovered another surprise. Unlike the lightly armored vessels of the Conclave, human warships were built to take punishment. Reinforced hulls, compartmentalized systems, and redundant shielding absorbed damage that would have crippled other ships. Minor damage to decks, 12 through 15, reported the damage control officer. Repair teams responding. All weapon systems still operational, Reyes nodded. Return fire, all vessels, engage at will. The human fleet unleashed its full arsenal. Rail cannons accelerated projectiles to devastating velocities. Missile swarms overwhelmed point defenses. Laser arrays targeted vulnerable sensors, and weapon emplacements with surgical precision. 3 Void Combine vessels erupted in silent explosions. 2 more, critically damaged, drifted out of formation. On the command deck of the largest Void Combine vessel, Supreme Harvester Krell watched with mounting disbelief as the tactical display registered the unexpected losses. His 4 upper appendages twitched with agitation. What manner of defense force is this, he demanded. The Conclave has never deployed such weapons. His second-in-command, a hulking figure in biomechanical armor, consulted a data terminal. Analysis indicates these are not Conclave vessels. Configuration and energy signatures do not match any known species in our database. Impossible. No other species in this sector possesses interstellar capability, a communication officer interrupted. Supreme Harvester, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. Krell's compound eyes narrowed. Display it. The holographic projector activated, showing a bipedal creature with dark skin and determined eyes. Behind it, other similar beings operated control interfaces on what appeared to be a command center. This is Captain Diana Reyes of the United, Earthship Intrepid. You are attacking a peaceful civilization and committing genocide. Cease all operations immediately and withdraw from this system, or we will destroy every last one of your vessels. Krell's feeding mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. An ultimatum? From an unknown species with barely a dozen ships? He gestured to his communications officer. Respond. The officer activated the transmission. This is Supreme Harvester Krell of the Void Combine. You interfere with a scheduled harvesting operation. Withdraw now, and we may permit your species to exist until properly cataloged for future harvesting. Resistance will result in your immediate consumption. On the Intrepid's bridge, Reyes's expression didn't change at the threat. I was hoping you'd say something like that. It makes what comes next much simpler. She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. Commander Okafor, the diplomatic portion of our mission has concluded. Execute Combat Protocol Omega. Okafor's fingers danced across his console. Transmitting targeting data to all vessels. Strike fighters launching now. From the hangars of the human warships erupted swarms of aerospace fighters, sleek, agile craft, designed for both space and atmospheric combat. Unlike the methodical capital ships, these fighters attacked with seemingly reckless abandon, darting between enemy vessels at speeds that strained both machines and pilots. What are they doing? Admiral Kraz asked, watching the fighters execute maneuvers that no Conclave pilot would attempt. Creating chaos, Reyes replied, forcing the enemy to divide their attention while our main vessels move into optimal firing positions. The strategy worked. The Void Combine, accustomed to facing organized and predictable opposition, struggled to track the erratic movements of the human fighters. Their point defense systems, designed to counter missiles and drones, proved ineffective against pilots who could improvise and adapt to changing conditions in real time. Meanwhile, the Intrepid and her sister battlecruisers methodically closed distance with the enemy fleet, bringing their most devastating weapons into range. Main battery lock on the 3 largest vessels, Reyes ordered. Fire when ready. The Intrepid's hull vibrated as its spinal-mounted mass accelerator charged to full capacity. The weapon, nearly the length of the ship itself, was humanity's ultimate expression of kinetic warfare. A magnetically accelerated cannon capable of launching projectiles at relativistic speeds. Firing solution complete. Mass accelerator at 100% charge. Fire. The massive weapon discharged with a force that momentarily affected the Intrepid's own trajectory. The projectile, a tungsten rod massing several tons, crossed the distance to the Void Combine command ship in seconds, its kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear detonation. It struck the enemy vessel amidships. There was no explosion, no dramatic fireball, just the catastrophic transfer of energy as the projectile punched through multiple decks before exiting the other side, leaving a perfect circular hole through the ship's spine. Secondary systems failed, atmosphere vented, and the massive vessel began breaking apart under its own structural stresses. Supreme Harvester Krell barely had time to register the alarm before his command deck depressurized. His last conscious thought was disbelief that any species could wield such primitive yet effective weaponry. On the surface of Elora, the battle took a different form. Colonel Santiago led the first wave of drop pods into the largest continent's central plain, where Void Combine harvesters were processing Eleran civilians. The human soldiers, encased in powered armor that enhanced their already formidable physical capabilities, hit the ground running. Echo Team, secure that processing center, Santiago ordered, pointing to a grotesque organic-looking structure where Elerans were being herded by armored Void soldiers. Delta, provide covering fire. Alpha with me. We're taking that command. Post. The Void Combine ground forces, 8-foot bipedal creatures with 4 upper limbs and biomechanical armor, turned their weapons on the human attackers. Energy beams lanced out, scoring direct hits on several soldiers. To the Combine's shock, the humans didn't fall. Their armor, designed to withstand the punishing conditions of training on Earth, absorbed damage that would have vaporized other species. And when the armor failed, the humans themselves displayed an almost incomprehensible ability to continue fighting despite injuries. Private James Chen took a glancing hit that melted through his left shoulder plate. The wound would have incapacitated most beings, but Chen simply switched his rifle to his right hand and continued advancing, administering a battlefield stimulant to manage the pain. They're reforming at the North Ridge, called Sergeant Wu over the tactical net, setting up heavy weapons. Santiago assessed the situation. A frontal assault would cost lives, even with their superior armor. Flanking maneuver. Jenkins, Harrison, take your squads through that ravine. Hit them from behind while we draw their fire. The battlefield, already chaotic, became doubly so as human soldiers executed maneuvers that seemed suicidal to conventional military doctrine. They used the high gravity of their homeworld to their advantage, executing jumps and rolls that their powered armor enhanced, beyond what the Void Combine could track. They deliberately exposed themselves to draw fire, trusting their armor and natural durability to withstand punishment no other species could endure. At the processing center, Echo Team breached the outer perimeter to find hundreds of Aloran civilians being systematically sorted by Void workers. The willowy aliens, with their luminescent skin now dulled with fear, cowered as the battle raged around them. "We're friendlies," shouted Lieutenant Park, her armor's external speakers translating into basic Aloran. "We're here to help. Everyone move toward the south exit." The Alorans, initially frozen with terror at the appearance of more armed beings, gradually understood. As human soldiers formed a protective corridor, civilians began streaming toward safety. A young Aloran, barely adolescent by their standards, stumbled and fell directly in the path of a Void soldier raising its weapon. Without hesitation, Corporal Rodriguez threw himself between them, taking a direct hit to his chest plate that sent him sprawling. The armor, designed to distribute energy, saved his life, but left him momentarily vulnerable as the Void Soldier advanced to finish him. The young Eleran, instead of fleeing, grabbed a fallen piece of metal and swung it at the Void Soldier's leg joints. The distraction gave Rodriguez just enough time to draw his sidearm and fire 3 rounds into the creature's unarmored neck joint. As the Void Soldier collapsed, Rodriguez nodded to the young Aloran. "Thanks, kid. Now get moving." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human soldiers executed their primary mission: protect civilians at all costs. Their tactics prioritized drawing enemy fire away from population centers, even when it meant exposing themselves to greater danger. On the Intrepid's bridge, Reyes watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The space battle had shifted decisively in humanity's favor. 15 Void vessels were destroyed or disabled. The remainder were attempting to regroup, but without central coordination, their efforts lacked cohesion. Ground team reports successful evacuation of primary population centers, Okafor reported. Colonel Santiago requests air support at these coordinates. Reyes studied the map. Deploy the second fighter wing. Tell them to focus on those harvester ships. She turned to Admiral Kraz, who had been watching the battle with an expression of stunned disbelief. "Your assessment, Admiral?" The reptilian officer took a moment to compose himself. "I have never seen combat conducted this way. The Conclave's military doctrine emphasizes minimal casualties and precise application of force. Your species fights with abandon." "Not abandon," Reyes corrected. "Commitment. There's a difference. We commit fully to protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Ambassador Lorax's skin had shifted to a pattern that Reyes couldn't interpret. "The Conclave may have seriously misjudged your species, Captain Reyes. We saw only the capacity for violence, not the purpose behind it." A new alarm sounded from the tactical station. "Captain, sensors detecting new energy signatures at the system's edge. 3 Void capital ships dropping out of hyperspace." Reyes straightened. The battle was far from over. "All vessels, regroup, prepare for Phase 2. As the reinforcements arrived, the true test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. But for the first time since the Void Combine began their campaign of conquest, they faced an opponent who didn't break, didn't retreat, and answered ruthless efficiency with something far more dangerous: righteous fury backed by the evolutionary gifts of Earth's merciless crucible. The galaxy was about to learn why isolating Deathworlders might have been the Conclave's most prudent decision, and why unleashing them against a common enemy might be their wisest. Deathworlders unleashed. The 3 Void combined capital ships emerged from hyperspace like massive predators, their black hulls absorbing the light of Alora's sun. Each vessel dwarfed the human battlecruisers, stretching nearly 5 kilometers, from bow to stern. Their arrival shifted the tactical situation dramatically. These weren't mere harvesters, but dedicated war machines designed to eradicate any resistance. On the Intrepid's bridge, Captain Reyes studied the new threat with calculated component analysis. "Energy readings off the scale," Commander Okafor reported. "Those aren't standard harvester vessels. They're military platforms, weapons charging, and they're deploying what appear to be fighter analogs." From hangars along each capital ship's flanks poured hundreds of smaller craft. Biomechanical, drones guided by a hive mind rather than individual pilots. Admiral Kraz's scales flattened against his body, a sign of extreme alarm in his species. "Those are Dominators. The Conclave has only encountered them once before. An entire defense fleet was lost." "Well, we're not the Conclave," Reyes replied, her voice steady. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, execute contingency protocol. Epsilon. Ground forces, prepare for orbital bombardment. Find cover immediately." Throughout the system, human vessels broke formation, accelerating in seemingly random vectors away from their previous battle positions. It appeared, to outside observers, like a chaotic retreat. "What are they doing?" Ambassador Lorax asked, his translucent skin pulsing with distress patterns. Kraz watched the tactical display with growing comprehension. "They're not retreating. They're repositioning." The Void Combine capital ships, detecting the apparent disarray, pressed their advantage. Their main weapons, massive particle accelerators that could reduce planets to slag, began to charge. The swarm of biomechanical fighters spread outward, pursuing human vessels that appeared to be fleeing. Then the trap closed. All vessels, execute now, Reyes ordered. Across the system, the human fleet activated their most classified weapons technology. From specialized bays on each warship, launched what appeared to be simple missiles. But as they accelerated toward the Void capital, ships they revealed their true nature. Nemesis devices deploying, Okafor confirmed. 30 seconds to activation. The Nemesis, neutralizing electromagnetic multispectrum interference system, represented humanity's answer to fighting technologically superior opponents. Not designed to destroy through kinetic force, they instead targeted the one vulnerability all advanced civilizations shared, their dependence on electronic systems. The devices detonated in carefully calculated patterns around the Void capital, ships, releasing targeted electromagnetic pulses combined with quantum interference waves specifically calibrated to the Void Combine's operating frequencies. The effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the massive vessels, systems failed in cascading sequences. Weapons powered down mid-charge, propulsion faltered. Most critically, the hive mind connection to the fighter drones severed, leaving hundreds of attack craft suddenly operating on rudimentary backup protocols. Direct hit, Okafor announced, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. All 3 capital ships experiencing catastrophic systems failures. Drone swarm disorganized. All vessels re-engage, Reyes ordered. Fighters concentrate on the drones. Capital ships target their propulsion and weapon systems. Cripple, don't destroy. We want prisoners. The human fleet converged once again, this time facing a numerically superior but functionally impaired enemy. The aerospace fighters, piloted by humans who could improvise and adapt, made short work of drone craft suddenly reduced to predictable attack patterns. The capital ships, protected by technological countermeasures designed specifically for this encounter, systematically disabled the massive Void vessels. On the surface of Allura, the battle took an unexpected turn. The electromagnetic disruption affected not only the capital ships but also the ground forces command structure. Colonel Santiago, recognizing the opportunity, immediately ordered a full offensive against suddenly disorganized enemy positions. All units advance. They're cut off from orbital support and command. Human soldiers, already proving themselves, nightmarish opponents with their resilience and adaptability, pressed forward with renewed vigor. Power-armored troops crashed into Void defensive positions. Combat engineers deployed sonic disruptors that exploited weaknesses in Void biomechanical armor. Medical teams, using stimulants and battlefield procedures that would kill most sapient species, kept wounded soldiers in the fight long past when any reasonable being would have surrendered to pain. In the capital city of Allura Prime, a squad of human marines led by Lieutenant Amara Patel reached the central administrative complex, a crystalline structure of breathtaking beauty, now scarred by Void weapons fire. Inside, they found the remnants of the Alluran leadership huddled in a reinforced chamber, surrounded by the last of their ceremonial guards. High Chancellor Theron, the willowy alien who had sent the original distress call, stared at the armored humans with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "We come from Earth," Patel announced, her helmet translating automatically. "We received your distress call and are here to help." Earth? Theron's luminescent skin pulsed with confusion patterns. "We know of no such world." "You wouldn't," Patel replied. "We've been under quarantine, but that's a conversation for later. Right now, we need to get you to safety." Outside, the sounds of battle grew closer. A Marine at the doorway called out, "Lieutenant, we've got multiple hostiles converging on our position." Patel made a quick decision. "Chancellor, we have a secure evacuation point 3 kilometers south. My team will get you there, but we need to move now." As they prepared to move, the building shook violently. Through the shattered windows, they saw a massive Void harvester, a 100-foot mechanical monstrosity designed to process resources and biological matter, tearing through the city center, heading directly toward them. "Change of plans," Patel announced. "Defensive positions. Jensen, Kowalski, Get that anti-armor launcher ready. Everyone else, protection detail on the Chancellor and staff. The Marines moved with practiced efficiency, taking positions throughout the chamber. The Harvester drew closer, its mechanical appendages crushing everything in its path. Jensen hefted the launcher onto his shoulder, but Patel held up her hand. Wait, for my signal. We need a clean shot at the central processor. The Harvester paused outside the administrative complex, as if sensing the biological material inside. Its front section began to transform, revealing a series of grinding mechanisms designed to break down structures and organic matter alike. Now! Patel ordered. Jensen fired. The projectile struck the Harvester's central section, detonating with a thunderous roar. The machine staggered, but didn't fall. Again! Patel commanded. Kowalski loaded another round, and Jensen fired once more. This time the explosion tore through the Harvester's primary systems. The massive machine shuddered, collapsed partially, then began to emit a high-pitched whine. It's going critical, Jensen shouted. Everyone down! The humans threw themselves over the Aloran officials as the Harvester detonated. The blast wave shattered what remained of the building's windows and cracked its structural supports. When the dust settled, Patel checked her team. 2 Marines were injured, 1 seriously, but all were alive. More importantly, the Aloran leadership remained unharmed, though thoroughly shocked by the humans' actions. You protected us with your own bodies, Chancellor Theron said, his voice trembling. Why would you do this for beings you've never met? Private Rodriguez, helping an injured comrade to his feet, answered simply, because that's what humans do. Aboard the largest of the disabled Void capital ships, a specialized human boarding team fought their way through corridors designed for beings larger than themselves. Captain Reyes led personally, determined to capture the Void command structure and, if possible, discover the reason behind their systematic extermination campaign. Unlike the ground battles, this engagement happened in close quarters where the humans' smaller size became an advantage. They moved through maintenance ducts and service passages too small for the Void soldiers, emerging at strategic points to ambush defenders unprepared for enemies appearing where none should be able to go. Life signs ahead, reported Lieutenant Commander Wei, studying her scanner. Large chamber, approximately 20 signatures. Configuration suggests a command center. Reyes nodded. Breach protocol, non-lethal if possible. We need prisoners who can talk. The team positioned stun grenades, devices calibrated specifically for Void physiology, based on data gathered during the ground campaign. When detonated, they released a combination of sonics and neurological disruptors that overloaded the Void nervous system without causing permanent damage. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The door blew inward and stun grenades rolled into the chamber. Flashes of blue light followed by disorienting sound waves filled the room. The human team, protected by their armor's sensory filters, stormed, in with weapons raised. Inside they found what was clearly the vessel's command center. Void officers lay incapacitated across control stations. At the center, a massive figure remained partially upright despite the stun effects, clearly the ship's commander. Reyes approached, weapon trained on the alien. Do you understand me? The translation systems in her armor converted her words to the clicking, chittering language of the Void Combine. The commander's compound eyes focused on her with obvious effort. Impossible, it rasped through mandibles designed for tearing flesh. No species survives contact with the Combine. That assumption is proving problematic for you, Reyes replied coolly. I am Captain Diana Reyes of Earth. Your forces are defeated. Your harvesting operation has failed. Now you will answer for genocide. The commander's upper limbs twitched. Whether in pain, amusement, or anger was impossible to tell. Genocide? We merely harvest resources. The Alorans are simply another resource. They're sentient beings. Sentience is irrelevant. Strength determines who consumes and who is consumed. You have proven stronger than anticipated. An interesting development. Reyes felt a chill at the alien's complete lack of moral comprehension. Why do you do this? Surely your civilization has the technology for sustainable resource gathering without destroying entire species. The commander's breathing stabilized as it adapted to the stun effects. Efficiency. Living worlds provide all resources in one location: metals, gases, biological compounds. Why harvest dead rocks when living worlds offer everything pre-organized? Because it's wrong, Reyes said simply. Wrong? The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. A sound Waze translator identified as laughter. You apply moral constructs to resource acquisition. Fascinating. Perhaps this is why your species fights with such unusual tactics. Reyes decided to change approach. How many worlds have you harvested? 43 in this sector alone, thousands across known space. The number shocked even the battle-hardened human team. Thousands of civilizations, each with billions of lives, systematically consumed like so much raw material. And your homeworld? Where is that? The commander's compound eyes narrowed. You seek to threaten retribution? Interesting. Our homeworld exists beyond your reach, human. The Combine spans galaxies, not merely systems. What you have encountered is merely an expeditionary force. Before Reyes could respond, Waze scanner beeped urgently. Captain, detecting energy buildup throughout the ship. They're initiating some kind of self-destruct sequence. Evacuate. All teams fall back to extraction points immediately, Reyes ordered through the command channel. To the Void Commander, she said, your death accomplishes nothing. It denies you information, the alien replied calmly. And it ensures the Combine will know of your existence. You have not stopped us. You have merely announced yourselves as the next target. Reyes backed toward the exit as her team retreated. Then we'll be ready. The human boarding teams barely made it back to their shuttles before the 3 capital ships simultaneously detonated. The explosions were controlled, designed to destroy information rather than cause maximum damage, but still powerful enough to register on sensors throughout the system. Aboard the Intrepid, Reyes stood silently as debris from the Void vessels scattered across space. Ambassador Lorax and Admiral Kraz joined her on the observation deck. Did you learn anything before they destroyed themselves? Lorax asked. Enough, Reyes replied grimly. This wasn't an isolated incident. The Combine has destroyed thousands of worlds, and now they know about Earth. Admiral Kraz's scales rippled with concern. Captain, I must inform you that the Conclave has encountered rumors of the Void Combine before, but never confirmation of their scale. What you've discovered suggests a threat beyond anything we've prepared for. Then it's time to prepare better, Reyes said firmly. Beginning with ending Earth's isolation completely. If the Combine spans galaxies, no single world or even alliance can stand alone against them. The Conclave would never agree to a military alliance with Earth, Kraz stated flatly. Your species is too unpredictable. Reyes turned to face the alien admiral fully. With respect, Admiral, your Conclave's predictability is exactly what made the Alorans vulnerable. The Combine expected a certain type of response, or no response at all. They didn't expect humans. And that saved Elora, Lorax interjected, his skin pulsing with acknowledgement patterns. Captain Reyes is correct, Admiral. The Conclave must reconsider its position on Earth. 3 weeks later, the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. Below, on the healing surface of Elora, reconstruction had begun. The Void Combine had been driven from the system, though at tremendous cost. Nearly a third of the Eloran population had been harvested before the human intervention. In the repaired central chamber of Elora's governing council, Captain Reyes stood alongside Colonel Santiago as Chancellor Theron addressed the assembled representatives of both species. Words cannot express our gratitude, Theron began, his skin glowing with patterns of deep emotion. When we sent our distress call into the darkness, we expected no answer. The Conclave was too distant, our own defenses too weak. Yet you came, beings we had never met, from a world we did not know existed. Santiago shifted uncomfortably under the praise. Beside him, Lieutenant Patel stood at perfect attention, though her eyes betrayed her emotions as she looked at the recovering Alorans. "We would do it again," Reyes said simply. "And you may need to," Theron acknowledged. "The Void Combine will return perhaps not to Elora but to other worlds, which is why our council has made a decision." He gestured, and an aide brought forward an ornate crystal container. Within this vessel are the complete scientific and cultural archives of Elora, all our knowledge freely given to Earth. Reyes accepted the container carefully. "Chancellor, this is an extraordinary gift. It is the beginning of what we hope will be an extraordinary alliance," Theron replied. "The Conclave kept your world isolated out of fear of what humans might become if given access to advanced technology. We offer that technology freely, not despite your nature, but because of it." Admiral Kraz, standing at the back of the chamber, stirred uncomfortably. "Chancellor Theron, the Conclave protocols no longer apply," Theron interrupted firmly. "My people were dying while the Conclave deliberated. Humans acted. That is the difference between theoretical governance and practical salvation." "3. Chancellor turned back to Reyes and Santiago. "We have communicated with other worlds that fear the Combine's arrival. They too wish to establish direct relations with Earth. Not merely diplomatic ties, but training for their defense forces. They wish to learn how to fight as humans fight." "We're not mercenaries," Santiago said carefully. "No," Theron agreed. "You are something the galaxy has not seen before. Warriors with conscience, predators who protect, Deathworlders who value life." Later, as the Intrepid broke orbit to lead the fleet home, Reyes stood on the observation deck with Ambassador Lorax, watching Elora recede in the distance. "Your conclave misjudged us," she said quietly. "Yes," Lorax admitted. "We saw your capacity for violence and assumed it could only be destructive. We failed to understand that the same evolutionary pressures that made humans dangerous also made you protective. On your world, the strongest often defend the vulnerable, a concept that seems contradictory to many species." "It's not contradictory to us," Reyes replied. "Strength brings responsibility. A philosophy the galaxy may need more than ever," Lorax said. "The Void Combine represents a fundamental challenge to the Conclave's approach to galactic governance. For millennia, we have emphasized diplomacy, consensus, and non-interference. Yet against an enemy that views all life as mere resources to be harvested, such approaches are meaningless." The Intrepid's engines hummed as it prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Soon, they would be back in Earth's solar system, bringing news that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. "What will Earth do now?" Lorax asked. "Your world is no longer isolated. Your people know of threats beyond your system, and dozens of worlds wish to form alliances with you." Reyes considered the question carefully. "We'll do what humans have always done when facing existential threats. Adapt, prepare, and stand our ground." "Even knowing the true scale of the Combine?" "Especially knowing that," Reyes said firmly. "Humans have a saying, Ambassador. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We won't do nothing." As the fleet prepared for hyperspace jump, communications channels activated across all ships. On the main screen appeared the face of Admiral Chen, speaking from Earth's orbital command. Captain Reyes, Colonel Santiago, and all personnel of the Eloran Expeditionary Force, on behalf of Earth's unified government, I extend our highest commendation. You not only represented humanity in our first interstellar conflict, but demonstrated the finest qualities of our species in defense of another. Chen's expression turned more serious. The information you've gathered about the Void Combine has been analyzed by our strategic command. Based on your reports, Earth is initiating a full mobilization. The isolation era is officially ended. As of today, we stand ready to defend not just our world, but any world that faces extinction at the hands of the Combine. Throughout the fleet, human crews absorbed this news with the quiet determination characteristic of their species. They had left Earth as an isolated, quarantined world. They would return as the vanguard of a new defensive alliance. In the vast darkness between stars, the human fleet accelerated to hyperspace velocity, leaving behind a system saved from annihilation. and a galaxy forever changed by the intervention of a species that evolved on a world so dangerous, most aliens considered it uninhabitable. Deathworlders had answered the call for help, and the galaxy would never be the same.